My dog's like lurking in the background. Come here. Come here. Come here. Sunny, come here. Come here. Oh. What can you do? Hey guys, it's Holly and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a video which I have planned to do for so long. I don't know why I put it off for so long because this happened to me nearly 6 years ago. Today I am going to be sharing with you guys a pretty intense video, not gonna lie. I've put off filming this video for since I started my channel. This happened to me 5 years ago and still I've been too scared to film it because I don't know how to say what happened, and it's not like I get emotional, it's more that it's just a hard part of my life to talk about. But basically today I'm going to be doing a story time video for you guys about how I broke my back. So there's lots of different parts that play into this as to why this was such a massive life-changing event to happen, because it really did change my life. Not for the better or for the worse, it just definitely changed it a lot. And just before I get into this, I know there's going to be people ready to comment saying your back isn't broken because you can still walk, you can still dance, you can still do all these things. I'm just going to address you guys right then and there who think that every single time someone breaks their back it means that they're completely paralyzed, they can't move their arms, can't move their legs, have no control of their body. Whereas for me, I was very lucky enough to not break the vertebrae which would have paralyzed me. I think that was one more vertebrae down or something like that. The vertebrae that I broke and severely damaged is not the vertebrae which would paralyze me, so that was never an issue. I have had a lot of trouble walking in the past, and I'll show you guys and tell you guys about that later on in the video. But all I'm just trying to say is that people can break their backs without going paralyzed. I have a colleague at work who also broke his back and he's not paralyzed. He can still work to the full capacity everyone else can. He's a zookeeper, so he can still do everything he needs to do. I am very lucky that I'm not paralyzed. That was definitely a big scare, but as I tell the story you guys probably understand kind of like why that was never much of a worry for me. So let's set the scene. So I was 13 at the time, about to turn 14. I had done ballet my entire life, and by saying I've done it my entire life, it wasn't like once a week, it was like every single day, training for hours at a time. It was all I knew. I spent more time at the ballet studio than I did at my own house. If I wasn't at the ballet studio, I was at school. I didn't have a social life outside of ballet. All of my friends were at ballet, and it was my whole life. It was all I really knew. I started ballet when I was very young. I think I was about 4. And then from that point on I just danced every day. I fell in love with it. I was never amazing at it and I don't have a ballet body, but I had such a passion for dance and I just loved it. It was my favourite thing to do. My teacher to this day is still one of my biggest inspirations. She was amazing. I had all these amazing friends at ballet. It was my favourite thing to do and the only thing I really knew as well. And so at this point when I broke my back, I was 13 and I was really wanting to go and pursue dance and go to a full-time dance school at the age of 15, and a lot of my friends ended up doing that. A lot of my friends are 15 or 16 now and they're all over the world doing different ballet academies and things like that. So this was a very real dream for me and a very real career choice for me. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. So it was really all I knew. Another reason ballet was such a big thing to me, I promise you this is relevant to the backstory, I'll just get to it, but another reason ballet was such a big thing to me was because I had a really hard time at the schools at this point in time. I didn't really have any friends. I had individual friends, but it was all about friend groups and I didn't feel like I was cool enough to fit in with any of those friend groups that my friends were in. So in classes I might have sat next to someone and become friends with them, but when it actually came down to like lunchtimes and stuff, I would quite often find myself sitting alone or going and talking to a teacher the whole of lunchtime. I honestly felt that like my music teacher there was the closest friend I had out of everyone that was in my year, and I started off when I went to that school the first year having lots of friends, and then it dropped down, and this was the third and final year that I went to that school and I just had no friends. So ballet was really my only like time where I had friends and could socialize and could sit with people and talk to people, and it was kind of like a family of people that I literally grew up with that are all like-minded like me and love ballet and things like that. So ballet was my main kind of like distraction, I guess, from school. It was where I could go and just be myself, and I was so comfortable at ballet. I was so comfortable dancing, and if I had had a bad day at school, I would just work my butt off that night in ballet and I'd feel so much better and so much more accomplished. But then I broke my back. So the story of me breaking my back is not a fun story. So basically I was in drama rehearsal at my school for Shakespeare. This was the first time I had decided I'd get myself involved in something in the school. So I joined this Shakespeare soiree thing, which basically we ordered little scenes to enter into like a Sheila Wynn Shakespeare competition that then like goes all over the world if you win and stuff. And so this was my first time ever doing Shakespeare. We did a scene from The Tempest where I played Caliban, and I was with 2 other people from my school who I really liked. They were really nice people, and basically a freak accident happened during the rehearsal for this. So I was sitting in this chair, and then I got up to say something or do something, and then I jumped back into my chair, and just as I jumped, my friend moved my chair backwards and I landed flat bang on my tailbone. She didn't move my chair backwards on purpose. She didn't realise I was going to sit down in it again. It was all a freak accident. Quite often when I tell a story, people think that it was a bully or someone doing it as a joke, but either way, it was still a freak accident, and I still ended up breaking my back as a result of it. So I just remember lying down, and I just felt like shoots of pain going through my spine from my tailbone. And so I thought that I like bruised my tailbone or broke my tailbone or something. Everyone was laughing though. They found it really hilarious because like, I mean, like, it's a funny thing to happen. And I was lying like flat on my back, and I just realized I couldn't actually move my legs. And I was like, oh, this feels weird, but I was laughing as well because I was kind of like nervous laughter, like, that doesn't really hurt. And then eventually I could kind of feel like the pain stopped shooting everywhere, and I could like feel my legs and stuff, and then I was like, okay, I'm fine. And I just kind of walked it off and just was like, it's fine, I'm all good. I had quite a sore tailbone for probably the next year, because we didn't actually find out that had broken my back until a year later. But I had a really sore tailbone which never healed. I just thought it was like really badly bruised or something. I didn't think it was broken. I didn't think I was in enough pain for it to be broken. And I just kind of moved on from there. So that's how I initially broke my back. That was the whole accident that happened, the freak accident. Yeah. So that was pretty intense. It was very painful. Looking back at it now, it's kind of crazy to think of how my life was before that to how it ended up being now. So in the next year, like I said, we didn't actually find out that had broken my back until the next year. So I kind of like developed a very sore pain in my left hamstring, and I was already getting physiotherapy because a few months before this happened I pulled my right hamstring really severely, so I was getting physiotherapy for that, and now my left hamstring started acting up all of a sudden, and it was like a very sharp nervy pain getting shot through like my hamstring. And I developed a very bad limp from this as well, and I also lost all my flexibility and most of the control of my left leg, which still to this day hasn't come back. I'll insert some clips of me showing you like how much I can move my legs and how uneven my hips are and stuff like that. My hips are ridiculously uneven, and that's from this injury as well. It's easy to tell in real life when I'm not wearing a straight cut dress, but basically you can kind of see where my hands are and how they're not even. That's where my hips are. I am not just placing my hands there, they're resting on my hips, which are very uneven. And then in this clip you see me testing my flexibility from each leg. So my first leg's fine, this leg, however, that's as high as I can lift it up. So basically, in the extent of me leaving this broken back for a whole year, a whole bunch of other injuries came into play. The reason that we didn't pick it up further though is because I have a very high pain tolerance, and I used to say this when I was with my ex, and he used to always laugh at me, but it's true. I adapt to pain really well, especially like broken arms, broken bones, things like that. Like I used to dance with broken toes, I dance and point on broken toes. Like I am very good at adapting to pain, and so I just kind of like like, as soon as I realised I was in pain, I just kind of set my mindset to be able to adapt to it, and then I wasn't in as severe pain as I was in, and I could just deal with it. And so over this whole year, my left hamstring started acting up, and I was getting physio treatment for it. I was getting like deep tissue massages, but no matter what sort of treatment and therapy I went through for this leg, it wasn't getting any better. So eventually I went to go get an ultrasound on it, and the hamstring came back as being completely fine. So then we were like, okay, then what's the problem? Like, it's fine. What are you complaining about, Holly? And then I was still complaining about it a lot, and I couldn't walk. And I remember the physio telling us that like the best treatment for it would be to just go on lots of walks and things like that. I can't remember what she thought it was, but she just thought it was something wrong with my hamstring or something. So she's like, just keep going on walks, just walk it off, it'll get better. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I kept pressuring mum, being like, there's something wrong, this is not right, it's not getting any better. This has been like a whole year now of me being in pain. So I was always just in a lot of pain, and I was like pressuring my mum to take me to the doctor, get me an x-ray, get something done, because I knew there was something wrong. And so I think it was my physio that said that I should maybe get an x-ray of my lower back, just to make sure that like there was nothing wrong up there. It was quite a far call because I didn't think there'd be anything wrong. She was treating me for a bruised tailbone, because that did happen when I fell, and it was still a bit sore and tender around that area. So she thought that maybe I could have broken my tailbone. So I then got x-rays, and boom, there was my spine. So my tailbone wasn't broken, luckily. I don't know how it happened, but my tailbone was fine. It was in fact one of my vertebrae, which was in pretty severe shape. So basically in the spine, your vertebrae sit like this, one on top of the other, with a disc in between them. I developed a thing called spondylolisthesis, which is basically when your vertebrae aren't like this but are like this, where one vertebrae has slipped forward and is very unbalanced. And because of this, and because I was still moving, it ended up grinding up the disc and completely disintegrating the disc in between the two vertebrae. And in doing so, it hooked the nerve to my left hamstring, meaning that every single time I put pressure on my back or walked or stood up or anything like that, my left hamstring would get like, the nerve to my left hamstring would get like squeezed in between my two vertebrae, and that would send intense pain down my left hamstring, which I still get today. And I also had another vertebrae which was fractured, which wasn't ideal. So yes, at this point when we found it out, I had had to stop dance. I ended up having to finish dance, and I spent the whole year not being able to do nearly as many classes as I usually would. I was in a very bad state of mind as well. I was just very unhappy because I couldn't dance, and because I was in a lot of pain all the time. I didn't really know what it was caused by either. So getting this x-ray really did change my life, and it did kind of make me realise that like there was something wrong. I wasn't just in all this pain for no reason, like there actually was a reason behind it. And so yeah, I then ended up having to quit ballet altogether. My dream of going off at 15 to join a company and full-time and dance full-time for the rest of my life came to a very sudden end, as there's no way that I could dance with a spine like this. And there was the option of getting a real intense surgery where you'd get 2 titanium rods down either side of your spine, but even that would limit my spinal movement and my overall movement in dance, and I don't think being a ballerina would ever be a possibility, having that in your spine, as you do need a flexible back. However, I can still dance, and I do still dance. I haven't been dancing for about 6 months at the moment. However, like, I was still doing jazz. However, I have done many other dance types since this happened. Like, I've done jazz and hip hop and contemporary, and yeah, no, I think that's about it. So I can still dance and I can still move. I just can't do anything as intense as ballet, and I can barely go on point anymore just because it does send a lot of pain down my legs and does hurt my back quite a lot and aggravate it quite a bit. But yeah, so I am very lucky in the fact that I can still walk and I can still dance. It has affected my flexibility quite a lot, and I've always had a super bendy back. I've always had scoliosis, which is like when your spine is kind of like an S shape. Mine's just like really curved. It's the reason I am so short. Well, one of the reasons. My sister, who's 15, is a good 3 or 4 inches taller than me. I'm only 5'3". Everyone else in my family is taller than me. My dad's not too tall, he's like 5'11", and my mum is about 5'8", but I'm 5'3", and I've always been short, but I just haven't grown like my sister has. We had a very similar growth pattern in that we were very tiny all throughout school, and then suddenly she started growing when she was 14, and I haven't grown since I was 14, so I've always been quite short. But with this condition, me, my parents and doctors all reckon that I would have been a few inches taller if I got surgery or if this didn't happen. But yeah, so there's a reason as to why I'm so short. So yeah, so treatment wise for my spine, I went to the physio 2 to 3 times a week, and I got lots of massages, lots of treatment, kind of things like that. When we first realized I had quite a severe spinal injury, I remember talking to my spinal surgeon, and the tilt of my spine was about 40%, which is quite... I can't remember the exact tilt of my spine, but it was quite severe, but it wasn't severe enough to get surgery straight away. And since I still love dancing and I want to be able to dance for as long as I can, and I want to do acting as a career and musical theatre, so I want to still be able to have that ability to dance, he decided that instead of me rushing in and getting the surgery straight away, that we'd wait a whole year, and if there has been no change, like if my spine hasn't slipped any further, and that it's stable, or as stable as it possibly can be, we don't need to rush the surgery. And he was hoping that by the time I stop growing, it won't move anymore. And so I don't think I actually have grown since this incident happened, or maybe like a couple inches over since when I was 13 to like maybe 14, but I don't think I've actually grown much at all since I was at least 14, maybe 15. So once I stopped growing, I stopped having lots of issues because my spine wasn't moving as much because I wasn't growing and like all of that jazz. So after a year of getting checkups every few months and seeing if my spine had slipped, we realised it hadn't, so we decided not to get the surgery. The doctor said that the only reason I would need surgery or that my spine would slip further is if I got in a serious accident, like a car crash. I did get run over like 3 months after he said this. There's a video on my channel about how I got run over by a car, but that ended up not affecting my spine, thank God. It just affected the rest of my body. But yeah, so yeah, so I'm just gonna talk to you guys about what it felt like living with such a severe injury when it was at its prime, when it was most painful, most difficult to live with. It was really bad. So when I first injured my spine, I was in a lot of pain, especially felt through my left hamstring. That's where most of the pain came from. I could barely move it, walking hurt, standing up hurt severely. I had shoots of pain just going through my whole body. I couldn't sleep. I could like my sleeping was really off. There was no time where I was out of pain. There was no position I could sit in or lie in where I wouldn't feel any pain. And this was probably about 3 or 4 years that this lasted, where I was just in this constant pain. And this is what has really given me a really high pain threshold for now, because I do have a high pain threshold now, but I was just in this constant pain all the time, and it was really, really horrible. And I was really depressed because I was always in pain. I was always really moody as well, because like no matter what I did, I was just always in this really intense pain, and I hated it. I mean, like, being in pain, anyone that's experienced what it's like to be in constant pain where you can't move or do anything to make yourself feel better, you would know how depressed and unhappy someone could end up feeling and how moody they would be. So I feel really bad for how I treated my parents back in those years, because I was just in pain the whole time, where I just couldn't, sometimes I just snap because I was just in so much pain. I was like, why me? Why am I the one that has to be in this pain? I was just jealous that like everyone else could go through and not be in pain, and then there was me who was always in pretty intense pain. So we decided that So my surgeon said one way to try and like get me out of as much pain as I was in was to get a cortisone injection. So this is a very big procedure. It involves, oh, what are those things called? It involves one of those like tunnel x-ray things. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a tunnel x-ray thing. I'll insert a picture so you guys, if I remember what it's called, so you guys can see what I mean, where there's like a bed that goes through it. And so I was lying on the bed on my stomach, and they had to inject this cortisone injection, which they have to inject into your spine. And I'm really bad with needles, like really bad with needles, especially injections. Like blood tests I'm usually okay with, but injections I'm just like, nah, like I can't do. So this included getting like a whole like anesthesia injection first, so that if the back would go numb, and then the big cortisone. However, they're not allowed to put you to sleep for this injection, because the only way they can tell that they haven't hit the nerve is if you tell them. So you have to like be there to feel it, because if they hit the nerve, then like they have to take it out and redo it. So basically what they do is they've got this massive ass needle, and they stick it in your back, and then they'll let it sit there. They'll put your carriage into the machine, x-ray it, see where it's going, and then it'll come out. Then they'll put more in, and they'll like redo it, and then they'll put me back in again. And they did this like 5 or 6 times to make sure that it was going into the exact right spot. But like this needle is just sitting in your back the entire time that you're going in and out. Like it is a very painful process, and I remember screaming my head off at the end when they just got to that last bit, and they just kind of like put quite a lot of fluid into my spine at once, and pain, I kid you not, shot me everywhere. Like I could feel it go through my fingers. It was like an electric shock. Like it just all of a sudden I had all this pain everywhere, and I screamed because I couldn't contain it. Like it was the most painful and weirdest feeling thing I've ever been through. But yeah, like it hurt like a bitch. It was so bad, and I just remember screaming. Like I just couldn't, there's nothing else I could do. And there was a good like 4 or 5 people in there, like all doing their own little job or helping it and stuff. But like it was terrifying, and it really hurt. However though, this injection did help for maybe 3 months. Then my spine went back to being really painful again. Cortisone injections, they're kind of weird, because if you get one and then it works, then the second time you get it, it will definitely work, and then the third time you get it, it might not actually work again. So they're not something you can really get many of, because it might just stop working and then it won't work. So it's definitely like an emergency thing. So this was a way for me to get out of pain for a while, and it did work in the sense that I was out of pain. I wasn't in as nearly as much pain as I was in beforehand. I still was in pain a lot, but there were positions like I could lie down on my back, and other positions where I would be out of pain, and so it was really nice to have that little break from being in pain all the time. There really was no other treatment though that they could give me to help with the pain in any way. It was more of just like a waiting game until I grew up, and I was older and finished growing, that it would go away, and it did. Well, I still don't have control over I still don't have full control over my left leg, because the nerve to my hamstring is still pinched by my spine. My spine did act up in December last year, and I could barely walk, I could barely move, I was in a lot of pain. Probably more pain than I was in when I originally did it. But it was really painful. It was something that I found really hard to cope with, and there was no reason for it to act up either. I just remember waking up one morning and not being able to walk or move, and like it was scary. And it is a scary thing that if I have a fall, or if I get in another car accident, or if something happens, someone pushes me over too hard and I land in a bad way, my vertebrae can slip completely and my whole back will be broken in half. Like, it's a scary kind of thing to think about, so I try not to think about it too much. And I try to kind of ignore it, because I don't really feel my pain as much as I used to, so it doesn't really feel like it's there, but then I also know it is there because like I can still feel it. This is not making too much sense. I am kind of just rambling right now, but yeah, my back definitely caused a lot of difficulties growing up. It probably will cause a lot of difficulties in the future. I mean, like, I was reading something about the human body and evolution, and the one thing that hasn't changed about the human body over the last, like, I don't know, like 500 years or something is the spine. The spinal cord has stayed the exact same, whereas every other bone has kind of changed or evolutionarized. Is that a word? Or like changed a little bit, but the spine stayed the same, and humans only lived to 40, maybe, like only lived 40 years back then, so the spine supported them to 40 years, whereas now we're living to 80 to 100, some people are like 120, like, you know, we're living a lot longer, and the spine's only made to support us for 40 years, and since my spine is already fucked up, I don't know how long it's going to last, until I will need the surgery, or until other options might come into play. I might not be able to walk, I might not be able to do a lot of things when I'm older because of what my spine's been through at such a young age. And it's a scary thought. It's definitely not something I try and think about a lot because it does get me down. But that's not what this video is about. I'm not trying to be like, oh, pity me, or like, oh, this video, like, oh, I've had such bad luck, like, this is so sad, because like, but like, honestly, this happened so long ago now, and I don't know what my life would be like without it, and it actually turned my life around for the better. Even though I did love ballet and I really wanted to be a ballerina, and it stopped that future from happening, thinking about it now, I'm actually so much happier doing acting, and I enjoy acting more than I ever enjoyed ballet. I think the reason I wanted to pursue ballet so badly was because it's all I knew, and it's all I was really introduced to and all I did, and it was my whole life, so it just felt natural to want to do it for the rest of my life. I never really thought about other options or other things I wanted to do, because that was just kind of like what was always there and what was kind of built in for me to do. So if I didn't break my back, I probably would have never stopped ballet, and I would be at a full-time dance school right now, not sitting in front of the camera talking to you guys. I probably wouldn't have found the courage to move schools, because the reason I moved schools was because I met someone doing a holiday program who's like, come to my school, it's better than your school, and I was like, okay, cool. So I did. And I would never have done that holiday program if I didn't stop ballet, because I always would have had ballet all through the holidays, like, you know what I mean? Like, in the end, everything does happen for a reason, and I feel like if this didn't happen, I would be in a much more unhappy place than I am in now. So yeah, that is the very long story of how I broke my back. I hope you guys enjoyed or found this interesting. I don't know what you were supposed to get out of the story, but here, there's a little bit of my life. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time video. Yeah, I feel glad I finally did that. Whew. If you have any questions or whatsoever, please leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to look through them. Yeah, that's about it. Give this video a big thumbs up if you haven't already, and if you want any more story time videos in the future, then leave me some requests down below, and then hit the big red subscribe button so that you guys can subscribe to me. I upload videos twice a week, so if you want to see this face twice a week, then make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can. Smile, be safe, and stay beautiful, guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Adios.